Humanity had always dreamed of joining the greater galactic community. For centuries, Earth had looked up at the stars, hoping to make contact with advanced civilizations. But when the time came, the reality was far different from the dream. One by one, every civilization they reached out to rejected them. The aliens didn't see humans as equals. Earth was too young, too unpolished. Their technology was centuries behind, their way of life too simple. The galactic powers dismissed them as insignificant, no different from any other primitive species they had encountered. The leaders of Earth struggled to understand why the universe was so cold, so unwelcoming. They were told they weren't ready, told they hadn't earned the right to be part of the galactic family. The humans, proud yet humble, didn't fully understand the reasons behind the rejection. They had been fighting for peace on their own planet for so long, had grown accustomed to hope and struggle. Why then were they being told they couldn't join the larger community? Then, during one of their last missions in search of allies, humanity made a startling discovery. A distant planet, far beyond the borders of known space, was home to a dying alien race. The Trlez. Their once great civilization had crumbled, and now they were on the verge of extinction. They had been abandoned by every advanced race, their fate sealed by years of neglect. They were survivors, but barely. When the human explorers arrived on the Trlez homeworld, they found it in ruins. Towering structures lay in heaps of broken stone. Ancient forests had withered away, and the Trlez population was reduced to a few hundred, struggling to maintain what little life remained. The human leaders were stunned. How could a race so old, so advanced, be left to die alone? Yet the same question ran through their minds. Could humanity ignore them, as the galactic races had done? Or was it possible for humans to step in and make a difference? It was an impossible decision. Earth had already been rejected. The humans had no allies, no galactic backing. They were alone in a universe that didn't care. Yet, despite the overwhelming odds, a small group of human leaders and explorers came to a bold conclusion. We will help them. Humanity had been rejected, but that didn't mean they had to abandon their own morals and values. The humans decided to protect the Trlez, even if it meant standing against the universe itself. They could not turn their backs on the vulnerable, just as they would never turn their backs on each other. The choice was made. Humanity would give the Trlez hope. Even if it meant going against every other civilization in the galaxy, the humans would help them rebuild. They would show the universe what true compassion and bravery looked like. The decision to help the Trlez was not an easy one. After the humans made contact with the dying alien race, they returned to Earth, where the leaders of the human nations gathered in a tense meeting. The news of their discovery spread quickly, and the pressure to act was enormous. Every decision seemed to carry massive consequences, and there was no turning back once a choice was made. As the leaders sat around the table, the tension was thick. Many spoke against helping the Trlez. Why should we risk everything for a race that has already been abandoned by the galaxy? They are not our responsibility, one delegate argued. Others pointed out the danger of going against the established galactic powers. We are still new to space. We have no allies, no strong military force to protect us. The moment we intervene, we could face the wrath of those powerful civilizations that rejected us. But there was another voice, quieter but growing louder in the hearts of many. A human leader named Captain Rachel Hawk stood up. She was known for her bravery and leadership, and she spoke with a calm confidence that reached deep into the hearts of those listening. We've been rejected by every civilization. True, she said, but that doesn't mean we have to become like them. We're humans. We are not defined by others. We define ourselves. If we can't stand for compassion, if we can't help those who need it the most, then what are we? Her words struck a chord with many in the room. Humanity had always prided itself on its resilience, creativity, and courage. This was a moment for them to prove that their worth was not determined by the opinions of others. It was a test of their character. After hours of heated debate, the room fell silent. The decision was made. Humanity would offer their help to the Trlez. They would send aid to the dying alien race, using all of Earth's resources and technological advancements to help them rebuild, no matter the consequences. The very next day, Earth's leaders made their public announcement. They told the galaxy that they were choosing to stand by the Trlez, regardless of the reactions from other civilizations. They knew that this could lead to even more isolation, or worse, conflict with other alien species, but they believed it was the right thing to do. As soon as the announcement was made, the response from the galaxy was swift and fierce. Alien races that had once rejected humanity now saw the humans' actions as a challenge, an act of defiance against the status quo. They demanded that humanity cease their aid to the Trlez, warning them of the consequences if they did not comply. But the humans stood firm. The message from Earth was clear. We will not be bullied. We will not abandon those in need. If you reject us for our compassion, then we will stand alone. The stage was set. Humanity had made its decision. They were no longer just a species fighting for acceptance. They were something more, brave, compassionate, and determined to show the galaxy what it meant to truly protect and help those who could not help themselves. Humanity's decision had been made, and now it was time to act. The first fleet of human ships, carrying resources, technology, and supplies, began their long journey to the Trlez homeworld. The journey was perilous, but the human fleet was determined. No one could stop them now, and they were willing to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the fleet entered the Trlez system, the humans looked out at the alien planet that had become the symbol of their mission. It was a small, forgotten world, surrounded by shattered moons and a barren landscape. The Trlez had once thrived here, but now it seemed as if the planet itself was dying. Its oceans turned to dry, cracked soil, and its cities reduced to ruins. The humans were greeted by a grim reality. The Trlez, a race once powerful and majestic, were now a shadow of their former selves. Their bodies were weak from starvation and illness, their minds worn down by years of isolation. The alien race had been abandoned by their own allies, and now only a few hundred Trlez remained. Their hope had withered, and many of them had begun to lose their will to survive. When the human ships landed, the Trlez were hesitant. For so long, they had known nothing but the pain of betrayal. They had seen the galaxy's indifference to their suffering. Now they faced a new species, one that had been rejected just as they had. At first, the Trlez didn't know what to make of the humans. But the humans, led by Captain Rechelhawk, made the first move. They stepped forward, their faces full of warmth and determination. The Trlez, skeptical and afraid, watched from a distance. "We come in peace," Captain Hawk said, speaking in the universal translator that would allow both species to understand one another. "We know you've been abandoned, but we won't leave you to die. We are here to help." At first, there was no response. The Trlez simply stared, unsure whether to trust the humans. They had been abandoned by every other race, and trust had become a fragile thing for them. But as the humans began unloading supplies, setting up medical stations, and offering food and water, a small group of Trlez slowly approached. The humans worked tirelessly, day and night, to show the Trlez that they were serious. They began to build shelters for the Trlez, repair broken infrastructure, and share their advanced technology. Slowly, the Trlez started to see that the humans were different. They didn't want anything from them. They weren't here to conquer or enslave. They were here to help. Despite the growing tensions from other galactic civilizations who warned humanity to stay away, the humans pressed on. They were determined to make a difference. Each day, the Trlez grew stronger, and their once-lost hope began to flicker back to life. Captain Hawk stood among the Trlez, watching them as they began to rebuild. Her heart swelled with pride. Humanity's mission was far from over, but in that moment, it felt like they were finally doing something that mattered. The universe had rejected them, but humanity was showing the galaxy what it meant to be kind, to be brave, and to fight for the survival of those who had been forgotten. As the days passed on the Trlez homeworld, the humans worked tirelessly. They were determined to help the Trlez rebuild, but they knew it would not be easy. The planet was dying, its ecosystems had collapsed, and the Trlez had lost their knowledge of how to survive. But the humans had something that the Trlez did not: technology and knowledge that could save the planet and its people. Captain Rachel Hawk and the human engineers quickly set to work, planning the first steps of their grand mission. They would begin with the basics: food, water, and shelter. The Trlez had lived for generations with nothing but the bare minimum, and many had already begun to lose hope. But the humans knew that restoring the essentials would be the first step to bringing the planet back to life. The first task was to restore the water supply. The Trlez had relied on ancient, broken pipes and outdated water filtration systems. The humans brought in advanced technology to purify the planet's water and restore it to a drinkable state. It wasn't easy, but it was the first spark of hope for the Trlez. The people began to see that things could change. Next, the humans turned their attention to agriculture. The Trlez had lost their ability to grow food, as the soil was depleted and the climate had become harsh. The humans brought new techniques: hydroponics, vertical farming, and genetically modified crops that could grow in the Trlez's dry and barren soil. They even created greenhouses to protect the fragile plants from the harsh elements. Slowly but surely, the Trlez began to see their food supply increase. It wasn't much at first, but it was enough to make them believe in the possibility of a future. The once skeptical Trlez began to gather together, working alongside the humans, learning from them, and contributing to the rebuilding efforts. The human engineers also worked on the Trlez's infrastructure, using their advanced technology to rebuild crumbling cities and restore the planet's power grid. It was a massive undertaking, but each success, no matter how small, brought a renewed sense of hope to the Trlez. As the days turned into weeks, Captain Hawk watched as the Trlez transformed. Their faces, once weary and hopeless, were now filled with determination. They were beginning to believe in the future again, and it was all thanks to the humans who had risked everything to help them. But it wasn't just the Trlez who were changing. The humans had come to the planet with the intention of helping, but they had learned just as much from the Trlez. They had learned about survival in the face of abandonment, about strength in the midst of loss. The Trlez had shown them the true meaning of resilience. One evening, as the humans and Trlez sat around a campfire under the stars, Captain Hawk felt a deep sense of pride. They had done it. They had given the Trlez hope, and in doing so, had given themselves something far more valuable: the knowledge that even in the darkest times, compassion and determination could make a difference. As the weeks passed, the Trlez began to thrive once more. The crops grew tall, the water flowed clean, and the once ruined cities started to show signs of life again. But as the Trlez found hope, other forces in the galaxy began to take notice. Humanity's bold actions had not gone unnoticed, and not everyone was pleased with their choice to help the abandoned alien race. The galactic civilizations that had previously rejected humanity were now watching closely. They saw the humans' actions as a challenge, a disruption of the carefully maintained order of the galaxy. Their decision to help the Trlez, who had been abandoned by every other race, was seen as an act of defiance. Humanity had defied the unspoken rules of the galaxy, and for that, many alien powers were angry. The most vocal opposition came from the Jaren Empire, a powerful and aggressive race that believed in the survival of the fittest. They saw the Trlez as weak and unworthy of aid, and they were not willing to allow a lesser species to rise again with the help of the humans. A Jaren envoy arrived at the human command center on the Trlez planet. The alien representative, a tall, imposing figure with glowing red eyes, stood before Captain Hawk and her team. His voice was cold and demanding. "You are making a mistake, humans," the Jaren said. "The Trlez are not your responsibility. You have no place in their affairs. If you continue to interfere, there will be consequences." Captain Hawk stood firm, her gaze unflinching. We made our choice. We are here to help the Trlez, and we will not back down. The galaxy's laws don't define our actions. We define them. The Jaren sneered. You think you can stand alone against the galaxy? You are nothing. A fleeting species, weak and insignificant. But Captain Hawk's voice was steady. You're wrong. We're human. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We fight for what's right. The Jaren envoy left without further words, but the threat hung in the air like a storm cloud. The humans knew that their actions had already angered powerful enemies, and the stakes were higher than ever. Over the next few days, tensions continued to rise. The Jaren Empire wasn't the only race that saw humanity's actions as a problem. Several other civilizations, who had once seen the humans as beneath them, now viewed them as a threat to the established order. Small skirmishes erupted along the borders of human space as alien ships came close to the Trlez planet, testing the humans' resolve. But despite the mounting pressure, the humans stood strong. They refused to let the Trlez suffer any longer. They continued to send aid, share their technology, and teach the Trlez how to rebuild their society. As the human fleet prepared for possible conflict, Captain Hawk knew that the path ahead would not be easy. The galaxy had made it clear that they were unwelcome. But the humans had already made their choice. They would stand by the Trlez, no matter what the universe threw at them. In the end, it was not the threats from the galaxy that would determine the outcome. It would be humanity's unwavering will to protect those who needed help the most. The tension in the galaxy had reached a breaking point. The Jaren Empire's threats had not been empty, and soon, the rest of the galaxy's powerful civilizations took action. The humans' intervention on the Trlez planet had caused a ripple effect, and the universe wasn't willing to let it stand. The war was inevitable. Captain Rachel Hawk stood on the command bridge of the human fleet, watching as the stars flickered past the windows. The Jaren Empire had declared war on humanity, and the situation was becoming increasingly dangerous. A fleet of Jaren warships, led by an enormous flagship, was making its way toward the Trlez system. The Trlez were no longer just a forgotten race. They were now a symbol of humanity's defiance, and the galaxy would not let that go unpunished. We're about to face our first battle, Captain Hawk said to her crew, her voice calm but full of determination. We won't back down. The Trlez have shown us what it means to survive. Now we fight for them. The human fleet had only a fraction of the strength of the Jaren Empire, but they had something the Jarens didn't: unity. Humanity wasn't fighting for power or conquest. They were fighting to protect those who could not protect themselves, and that made them stronger than any weapon. The first skirmish happened just outside the Trlez system. The Jaren fleet arrived, intent on destroying the human ships and reclaiming the planet. But the humans were prepared. They had spent the last few weeks preparing for this moment, using the Trlez planet as a strategic base. The battle was fierce. Jaren warships, sleek and powerful, attacked with precision, but humanity fought back with everything they had. Their advanced technology, combined with their fierce resolve, allowed them to hold their ground. The Trlez watched from their newly rebuilt cities, their eyes wide with awe as the humans fought to protect them. Human ships moved in tight formations, coordinating their attacks with incredible skill. The human fleet was outmatched, but they used their intelligence and adaptability to their advantage. They knew the terrain, and they used it to their benefit. A group of human fighters led a daring attack on the Jaren flagship, disabling its weapon systems just long enough to give the rest of the fleet a fighting chance. The Jaren, however, were relentless. The battle dragged on for hours, with both sides suffering heavy losses. Yet, despite the overwhelming force of the enemy, humanity held firm. They refused to give up, even as the odds seemed insurmountable. In the middle of the chaos, a message from the Trlez came through the human communication channels. The Trlez were offering their help. They had regained much of their lost knowledge thanks to the humans' teachings, and now they wanted to fight alongside them. Captain Hawk couldn't help but smile as the Trlez ships, small but determined, joined the fray. It was a symbol of everything humanity had fought for: unity, strength, and hope. The battle raged on, but the humans and the Trlez were no longer alone. They were a team, fighting for survival, for a future where no one would be abandoned again. As the first Jaren ship exploded in a fiery ball of light, Captain Hawk knew that this was only the beginning. The war was far from over, but humanity had shown the galaxy that their courage was unmatched. They had stood up to the strongest forces in the galaxy to protect the weakest. And that, she believed, was the greatest victory of all. The battle with the Jaren Empire had been brutal, but the humans and the Trlez had managed to survive. Their combined forces had repelled the first wave of Jaren warships, but Captain Rachel Hawk knew this was far from over. The Jarens would not back down so easily. They were a powerful force, and they would come again, stronger than before. The next few days were filled with tension. The human fleet, though battered, was rebuilding. The Trlez had shown incredible courage, offering what little support they could, but it wasn't enough. Captain Hawk knew they needed more if they were going to win this war. In the heart of the human command center, Captain Hawk stood, staring at a holographic map of the Trlez system. The Jarens were regrouping, and their next attack would come soon. The humans had to act fast. But the question was, how could they defeat an empire that had already crushed so many others? A solution, though risky, began to form in her mind. The Trlez had once been a mighty race. Their civilization advanced in ways that humans could not fully understand. If they could tap into the Trlez's ancient knowledge, perhaps they could discover a way to turn the tide in their favor. But the Trlez had been so isolated for so long that many of their secrets had been lost or forgotten. With no time to waste, Captain Hawk decided to take a bold step. She ordered her fleet to search for any remnants of the Trlez's lost technologies. She knew it was a long shot, but it was the only chance they had. The human and Trlez teams scoured the ruins of the ancient Trlez cities, searching through old libraries, computer systems, and forgotten temples. Days passed without much success, but then, on the fifth day, they made a breakthrough. Deep within an old vault, they discovered the Trlez's most prized possession, a powerful artifact, a weapon of unimaginable power, once used to defend their world from invaders. The weapon was dormant, but its energy was still there, waiting to be reawakened. The humans worked alongside the Trlez engineers, carefully studying the artifact and its systems. It was dangerous, ancient technology, but it was their only hope. As the weapon began to hum with life, Captain Hawk felt a sense of hope rise within her. They had found something that could turn the war in their favor. But they would have to use it wisely, for the consequences of failure could be catastrophic. The Jaren fleet was nearing, their warships closing in on the Trlez system. Captain Hawk stood at the helm of her ship, her fingers hovering over the controls. It was time for the ultimate test. The weapon, now fully charged, was ready to be deployed. In a last desperate attempt, the human fleet launched everything they had. The weapon fired, releasing a blinding light that tore through space, hitting the Jaren flagship with devastating force. The Jarens never saw it coming. As the flagship exploded in a fiery ball, the rest of the Jaren fleet fell into disarray. The humans and the Trlez had done the impossible. They had won. The galaxy would never forget the courage of humanity, standing against the strongest forces in the universe to protect the weak. In the end, it was not their technology or their military might that had won the war. It was their unshakable will to fight for what was right. The battle was over, and the humans had emerged victorious. The Jaren fleet had been destroyed, and the Trlez were safe. For now. The galaxy, once so vast and indifferent, was now watching humanity in awe. They had not only defeated one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy, but they had done so to protect a race that had been abandoned by everyone else. Captain Rachel Hawk stood on the balcony of the human command center, looking out over the Trlez planet. Below, she could see the Trlez people rebuilding their world. The once barren landscape was now full of life. New crops, new cities, new hope. The Trlez were beginning to thrive again, thanks to the humans who had risked everything for them. "We did it," Rachel said softly, almost to herself. "We gave them a future." But it wasn't just the Trlez who had changed. Humanity had transformed as well. The decision to protect the Trlez had brought them together in a way that no other event had. The unity they had shown, the strength they had found in their compassion, had created a new sense of purpose. They were no longer just a species trying to prove their worth to the galaxy. They had become something more. They had become heroes. The human fleet, once a small and fragile force, was now a symbol of strength and determination. The Trlez, too, had gained something from their alliance. Their once lost knowledge had been rediscovered, and they were eager to share it with the humans. Together, they began to forge a new future, a future where both races would work side by side to build a peaceful and prosperous galaxy. The galaxy, however, had not forgotten what had happened. The Jaren Empire had been defeated, but their influence still lingered in the shadows. Other alien civilizations, once hesitant to deal with humanity, now looked at them with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Some were wary of the humans' newfound strength, while others began to see the value in working together. Humanity's actions had shifted the balance of power in the galaxy. The Trlez, once seen as weak and irrelevant, were now a key player in the galactic community. The humans, too, had gained the respect of many races, but it was clear that there would still be challenges ahead. The galaxy was a vast and complex place, and not every civilization would welcome the changes that humanity had brought. Still, Captain Hawk was hopeful. The victory over the Jarens had been just the beginning. Humanity had shown the galaxy what they were capable of, what they could accomplish when they chose to stand for what was right, even against overwhelming odds. As the Trlez continued to rebuild, and as humanity worked alongside them, the future seemed brighter than it ever had before. The galaxy, once a cold and unforgiving place, was starting to look a little more like home. The alliance between the humans and the Trlez was a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, compassion and courage could change the course of history. And as Captain Hawk looked out at the stars, she knew that humanity's journey was far from over. There was so much more to do. But for the first time in a long time, the future felt full of endless possibilities. The war had ended, but for Captain Rachel Hawk and her crew, the real work was just beginning. The Trlez were rebuilding, and humanity was by their side, helping them every step of the way. The galaxy, which had once been cold and indifferent to both the humans and the Trlez, was now beginning to notice the power of their alliance. The Jaren Empire had been defeated, and it had shaken the galaxy to its core. As the dust settled, Rachel stood in the command center, watching as new messages arrived from other galactic civilizations. Some were cautious, some curious, and some still suspicious of humanity's intentions. But the humans had proven themselves, and Captain Hawk knew that it was time for them to take the next step. The Trlez, now full of hope and determination, had already started to rebuild their government. Their leaders, once divided and weakened by years of neglect, were now unified in their desire to restore their people to their former glory. They were no longer just survivors. They were becoming a force to be reckoned with the help of their new human allies. "Captain, we have another message from the Krillin Confederacy," said a crew member, interrupting her thoughts. Rachel turned to face the communications officer, who handed her the datapad. The Krillin Confederacy was one of the largest and most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, and they had been watching humanity closely. They had already expressed some interest in forming an alliance with Earth, but this new message was different. "We'd like to meet," the message began. "We have been watching your actions. The defeat of the Jarens has not gone unnoticed. We would like to discuss a possible future together." Rachel felt a surge of pride. The Krillin Confederacy had always been one of the more skeptical civilizations, and their sudden interest in humanity was a sign of how much things had changed. "This is a turning point," Rachel said, turning back to her crew. "The galaxy is finally starting to take humanity seriously. We've earned that respect, but we have to be careful how we move forward." The humans and the Trlez had worked hard to earn the trust of the galaxy, and Rachel knew that this meeting with the Krillin Confederacy was just the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, as not every race would be willing to accept humanity's rise. But the captain was confident that they were ready for whatever came next. Over the next few weeks, humans and Trlez worked together to improve the planet's infrastructure, share knowledge, and build a new government. The Trlez, now fully integrated into the rebuilding efforts, began to flourish. They had not just survived. They were thriving thanks to the help of the humans. But it wasn't just the Trlez who had changed. The humans had grown too. They had faced their greatest challenge, and they had come out victorious. Now, they were no longer just a young species struggling for acceptance. They were a symbol of what could be accomplished when determination and compassion led the way. As Rachel looked out over the planet, she knew that humanity's future was bright. The galaxy was a vast and complex place, full of challenges and opportunities. But humanity had proven that no matter how big the obstacles, they could overcome them. They had become more than a race trying to survive. They had become the protectors of the weak, the defenders of hope. And as the first ships from the Krillin Confederacy entered the Trlez system, Rachel smiled. The Trlez planet was no longer a desolate world. The cities, once in ruins, now stood tall and proud, shining with new hope. The humans had helped the Trlez rebuild their civilization, and the Trlez, in return, had helped the humans understand the true meaning of resilience and compassion. Together, they had faced the darkest of times and emerged stronger than ever. Captain Rachel Hawk stood in the heart of the new Trlez capital, watching the bustling streets below. It had been months since the war with the Jaren Empire, and the Trlez were thriving. New crops grew in the fields, the cities buzzed with activity, and the once weary people were now full of energy and purpose. Humanity had kept its promise. They had helped the Trlez survive, and in doing so, had built a lasting bond between the two species. But the work was far from finished. While the Trlez were rebuilding their world, humanity was still facing the consequences of their defiance against the galaxy. The Jarens, though defeated, still held some influence in the galaxy, and there were many civilizations who were not pleased with humanity's rise. Captain Hawk knew that they couldn't rest on their laurels. The galaxy was vast, and not all races would accept humanity's new role in it. One day, a message arrived from the Krillin Confederacy. It had been weeks since their initial contact, and now they were requesting a formal meeting. The message was clear. They wanted to discuss an alliance. The Krillin Confederacy, a powerful and influential race, had seen the bravery and strength of humanity. They recognized the humans' willingness to stand up for the weak, and that had earned them respect. "We have a chance to shape the future of the galaxy," Rachel said as she addressed her crew. "The Krillin Confederacy is offering us an alliance. This could change everything." The crew gathered around her, excited and nervous. The Krillin were one of the most advanced races in the galaxy, and an alliance with them could open doors to countless opportunities. But Captain Hawk was cautious. She knew that the galaxy wasn't kind to those who rose too quickly. The humans had earned the respect of some, but they still had enemies. "We've come a long way," Rachel continued, "but we can't forget what got us here. Compassion, unity, and strength. That's what we offer, and that's what we need to protect." The meeting with the Krillin Confederacy was tense. The Krillin representatives were serious, their eyes scanning the humans as if weighing their every word. But Rachel spoke with confidence, sharing humanity's vision for the future, one where races work together, not against each other. One where strength wasn't measured by how much power a species could exert, but by how much they were willing to give. To Rachel's relief, the Krillin were impressed. They saw the humans for what they truly were, a race that had defied the odds and come out on top. The Krillin agreed to a tentative alliance, and the two races began to work together to build a stronger future for all. As Rachel looked out into the stars, she knew that humanity's journey was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead, but they had proven that with compassion and determination, they could overcome anything. The legacy of humanity was now one of hope, a reminder that even the smallest, most vulnerable races could rise to greatness, if only given the chance.